Welcome along, everybody, to Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium. We are here for the second race of the weekend and round two of the 2020 DTM. My name's Chris Hartley. I'm going to be your commentator throughout the course of the race. Normally, we would have Verena Riet here as part of the presentation team. Unfortunately, Verena can't be here with us today, but don't worry, she'll be back with us at the Lausitzring in 2 weeks' time. So there, the view overlooking this magnificent, legendary racetrack where the DTM has come for the first time in 15 years. We had some terrific racing yesterday, much cooler conditions than we had yesterday. It is around about 19, 20 degrees, so around about 8 degrees cooler than it was yesterday, where lots of the drivers were suffering with overheating tyres due to the heat and due to the fact that we've got these long sweeping corners here at this world-famous venue. The cars in front of the commentary box are lined up on the grid, all set to go in just a few minutes' time for what will be a 55-minute plus 1 lap race around Spa-Francorchamps. So, before we get into the grid and hear from some of the drivers, let's hear now from the chairman of the ITR, Gerhard Berger.
Gerhard Berger, it's always something special to be in the grid, but in these days, is it even more special?
Special or different, I would say. Different, of course, without spectators, missing a bit the atmosphere. But when the race is started, it's the race, and that's all we are looking. And okay, we are looking at these days over streaming or over TV. But the important thing is that we started. We have a good field. We have very competitive. Yesterday was interesting, but we was very much in the hands of tires, I would say. Today is cooler. Let's see if we have a different picture today. But again, DTM is back. It looks like it's competitive, like usual, and I'm happy, looking forward for the season.
Exactly. 70 races are still ahead of us. So, what is your personal wish for 2020?
Mine, of course, everybody's personal wish at the moment is be back on a racetrack like we are used to it, with atmosphere, with music, with people, with fans. Unfortunately, I think we have to wait a bit for this. Now the second wish is that we are doing our events and we don't have any healthy issues on the events. And the next, of course, is to have competition until the last event, to have Audi matching against BMW, and to see who is the best driver, but to find it out just in the last race, in the last corner.
Thank you very much.
Okay, bye.
Matthias Peters there with the questions to Gerhard Berger, the chairman of the ITR, who with his team has done a fantastic job to get this show back on the road after the lockdown period, and with a pretty full calendar of 18 races to cram into just 99 days. Gerhard, the former Formula 1 racer, of course, 10 Grand Prix wins, and as part of his career he managed to finish on the podium himself here at Spa-Francorchamps. So our second qualifying session of the weekend was held just a few hours ago this morning. After finishing in 5th place yesterday, René Rast managed to get pole position, his 14th career pole position. The German driver managing to gap Robin Freins on the front row of the grid by nearly 0.3 of a second. Matthias Peters is down on the grid, and I think he's managed to grab hold of our pole sitter.
Exactly, the defending champion on pole position, René Rast. Yesterday you had big problems with your tires. Are the tires the major key today again? What do you think?
I hope not. Obviously, we tried everything to prevent that. So we had a bit of a setup change from yesterday to today. So let's see. The temperatures are a bit different. It's a bit cooler, but the track is quicker, which means a lot more energy into the tires, which normally should not help the tire deck. It should make it worse. But today it's a bit colder, so we don't know yet. I hope I can just survive with one stop, but let's see.
Spa is a unique track. What do you need to be successful here on this track, apart of a good tire management?
I think you need a combination of a quick car in the corners, but also on the straight. So you cannot run full downforce, because then you're obviously too slow on the straight, and you cannot run low downforce, because then you are too slow in the corner. So it has to be a compromise, and obviously it has to suit the driver, and he needs to feel comfortable. And I think we achieved that for qualify, and hopefully now for the race as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Matthias, and thanks to René Rast for his time, the pole sitter, the reigning champion, seeming much more happy with the car in qualifying. He was really struggling with yesterday with the car. Started the race well, from third on the grid, ran up in second place at one point as well, but he did struggle with the tyres in particular, and was the only driver to come in and make 2 pit stops. He was on a second run of tyres, just going backwards at one point, so he came in, dropped almost to the back of the field, put a new set of Hankook tyres on, and made up good ground in the closing 5 or 10 minutes of the race to get what was actually a pretty good 5th place. Not what he wanted at the start of the race, but given the problems he had, it was a good result, and added to the 3 points that he scored for qualifying on pole position today. He's coming into this race in 4th place in the championship standings. So Nico Muller, 28 points, your championship leader. Jamie Green, second on 18 points coming into this race. Loic Duval, 15 points in third, and René Rast, 14 points in 4th place. I think we can go back down to the grid now and hear more from Matthias Peters.
Yes, and with Sheldon van der Linde. Sheldon, you're the best BMW driver today here in Spa. Audi is in front of you, so how is it possible to close the gap?
Yeah, obviously very good starting position in P4. I think we maximized our performance today, but obviously very long race. We saw the tire deck being very high yesterday, so we've got our job cut out, I would say. Obviously not going to be easy to take on the Audis. We saw that their pace is really strong at the moment, but I'm definitely going to give my best. I'm going to push flat out as always, and yeah, just do a clever race. I think that's the most important here in Spa, and see where we end up.
When we are talking about Spa, we have to talk about, of course, Eau Rouge. How is it to go through Eau Rouge with the DTM?
It's amazing. Like you said, everyone knows Eau Rouge. If you ask anyone back home, they will all tell you that it's in Belgium, and it's a super famous corner with these cars at about 260 through Eau Rouge is insane. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting race, especially to the run on the run down to Eau Rouge is going to be very interesting, I would say. Important to get a good start and then get yourself in position for the rest of the race.
It's a little bit colder than yesterday, and it's cloudy sometimes. So what is your weather forecast for today? Spa is also really famous for rain.
Yeah, you're right. Spa is very famous for rain. We know anything can happen here, so we need to be prepared for anything. I think it should stay dry today. I don't expect any raindrops or anything, but like I said, we need to expect everything and see where we end up.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ciao, ciao.
Thanks, Matthias. Sheldon van der Linde there, who had technical problems with the car yesterday, undisclosed technical problems, but he did manage to get back out in the race, do some laps and use it as a test session really in the end. But in qualifying in both sessions, he's been very quick. He was 6th fastest in yesterday's qualifying session, and even better today, as Matthias said, the best BMW driver, lining up 4th on the grid. Officially, the weather forecast is that we've got an 8 to 9% chance of rain. And it shouldn't rain at all within the next hour. But trying to predict the weather at Spa is almost impossible. It's got its own little microclimate. And as I look out of the window of the commentary box, and as you look at Nico Muller's car, yesterday's race winner and the championship leader, sat 3rd on the grid, there are a couple of dark clouds just cruising over towards the tribune, the grandstand at the back of the start-finish line. There are lots of other white fluffy clouds around, but there are definitely 2 or 3 heavy clouds. We have had some rain here the last few days, and some extreme heat as well. For the Friday free practice session, there was a little bit of light rain as the session started, and the track was damp for pretty much all of the session. And then it was extremely hot, as we've heard, up to towards 30 degrees, 29, 30 degrees. Then last night there were some storms in and around, and as we sat out in the hotel, which is only about 8 or 9 minutes drive from here, sat outside, a rather pleasant evening, but then suddenly the wind blew up and rain started to come, and you could hear thunder in the background, but it just skirted around the area. We just were on the edge of it, so there was only a little bit of rain to freshen up the track overnight. So much more compliant conditions today, and that was shown in the qualifying times, because Robin Freins yesterday got pole position with a time of 2 minutes 5.625 seconds, and today in qualifying to get pole position, René Rast did a 2:04.199 second lap, so essentially a second and a half quicker than in yesterday's race conditions. We're looking forward to what should be an absolutely cracking race 2. So we're here in the Ardennes Forest to the east of Belgium, about 50 kilometres away from Liège, the nearest city. Old towns, historic buildings, and a legendary racetrack here. The three towns that surround the circuit make up the corners of the circuit. Francorchamps, Spa, of course, and Malmedy. It's a vibrant part of Belgium. It's beautiful in the Ardennes Forest, dense trees and a tree line as far as you can see. And then these roads, which many of them were used as part of the racetrack in its original form when it was first designed back in 1920, a 15-kilometre long road course. The second version of the circuit was slightly shorter at 14. The modern-day Grand Prix circuit is a 7-kilometre long track. It's a 55-minute plus 1 lap race. The new lap record holder is Nico Muller after yesterday's race, the first time since we were here last with DTM in 2005. And Nico set a lap record time of 2 minutes 9.756, which I suspect is going to be beaten in today's race. René Rast, Robin Freins, the front two on the grid. Nico Muller, yesterday's winner and the championship leader, scored an extra championship point for qualifying third. And so he's got a 10-point lead coming into this, but 17 races to go. Maybe too early to start talking too much about the championship. Nico missing out on the title last year to René Rast, the man who's directly ahead of him on the grid. Here we go then. This is how it shapes up. René Rast, 2:04.199 seconds on pole. Robin Freins alongside. He was yesterday's pole sitter. Then it's Muller and van der Linde on row 2. Row 3, Mike Rockenfeller, who finished 4th in yesterday's race, and Philip Eng is there 6th on the grid. He was the best BMW in the race yesterday. Timo Glock and Jamie Green next up. Jamie thundering from 11th to 2nd in race 1. Marco Wittmann, the double champion, and Lucas Auer on his return to the DTM complete the top 10. Jonathan Aberdeen and ex-Grand Prix racer Robert Kubica are next up. And then it's Loic Duval further down today after finishing on the podium yesterday. Fabio Scherer for company on row 7. Harrison Newey and Ferdinand Habsburg on the final row of the grid. Ferdinand missed all of the action yesterday except for free practice. He had a crash at the end of that. They couldn't fix the car in time for either qualifying or the race. He did go out in qualifying this morning, but you may have noticed from the graphic that there's no lap time against his name. His lap times are all taken away from him. So he's been allowed special dispensation to start at the back of the grid. It's been quite a testing weekend for Ferdinand so far, but hopefully he now has a little bit more luck than he's had so far. Perhaps worth mentioning as well that lots of drivers lost lap times in qualifying this morning due to exceeding track limits, and the main areas where they were falling foul of the system were coming out of Blanchimont at turn 17, and on a couple of occasions as well, drivers coming out of the final bus stop chicane. So there, René Rast, now 14 times a DTM pole sitter, 17 times a race winner. Not bad given it's only his 4th season in the championship, the former Porsche Super Cup and Porsche Carrera Cup Germany champion. Robin Freins, the former Formula Renault champion. He's alongside at the start of his 2nd season of DTM. And there's Nico Muller, as we've talked about, the championship leader. And the gap between Freins and Muller in qualifying was pretty similar to the gap between Rast and Freins. That's about 2-3 tenths of a second. Sheldon van der Linde 4th, around about 8 tenths of a second away from the pole time. So the grid has been cleared. The car's getting ready to fire up. 2-litre turbocharged cars these days. They replaced the old V8 cars last season. They're about 100 brake horsepower more powerful than them, and the engine's much, much lighter as well. So these absolutely fantastic cars with their aerodynamic aids as well. They have the huge rear wings on the cars, and they come with DRS, which can be deployed in these days in up to 50% of the racing laps at each circuit, to make them slice through the air. The angle of the rear wing, the flap opens and it's reduced the maximum allowable change 18 degrees at all the circuits this season. They also have a boost button with push to pass, which delivers extra fuel injection, and when they press that, that gives them a short burst of an extra 60 brake horsepower. So these cars absolutely phenomenal to watch around this Spa circuit with their high speed, their top speed, which is over 300 kilometers an hour. The cornering speed of the cars, which is incredibly immense as well. And the fact that they're just glued to the road with the slick Hankook tyres, of which they're allowed 7 sets at the start of each weekend, and big 18-inch wheels on the cars as well. Off then onto the formation lap they set. One or two dark clouds around, with actually skirting a bit further away from this part of the circuit. But as we've seen before here at Spa, one part of the circuit can be bone dry, and it's raining on the other side. So the overhead view then of the cars as they make their way out of La Source down towards the infamous Eau Rouge. At the start of the race yesterday, René Rast, who won the title last year, as I said, and his key rival from last year, Nico Müller, went absolutely side by side coming out of La Source. Rast had made a very good start, actually. He got second place into the first corner and actually thought about having a go for the lead of the race as well, which Robin Freins had initially. Then he and Müller, side by side, all the way out of La Source, down the hill, past the old start-finish line, and into Eau Rouge, and Müller held brave and held firm around the outside to get ahead of Rast. But yesterday after the race, Rast was slightly critical of the move and said that I had to back off. I was on the inside, he was on the outside. Normally the guy on the inside has right of way, but Nico wasn't lifting, so I lifted and I did him a favour, and Rast just got a little, you know, dig in there, letting everybody know what he thought of the move. And actually he almost got into more trouble as a result of that, because having had to lift slightly going into Eau Rouge, when Müller went side by side with him, he then had a slower exit at the top of the hill at Radion, and down the long Kemmel Straight he came under some fire from Mike Rockenfeller and from Timo Glock. He managed to hold on to third place in the end as they came into the first really heavy braking zone of the lap at the end of the Kemmel Straight, coming into Le Combe, where they dropped down to about 120 kilometres an hour and third gear. This is the Le Fan section, this sweeping S-bend section, which again they're taking third gear at about 140 kilometres an hour when they're at full racing speed. And then they go down towards Campos, the next right-hander. This is where, in qualifying this morning, René Rast at Campos said that he'd made a slight mistake on his pole lap, so he could have gone even quicker. In his first set of runs, he was missing time in that second sector, but he made it all up. There's Jens Marquardt to the right-hand side of your picture, head of BMW Motorsports, and hoping for a better day for BMW today. We have some fantastic onboard cameras for the races this weekend. A couple of views there from Timo Glock's car. Timo starting 7th on the grid, qualified well yesterday as well in 6th place, but dropped back a little bit in the race to finish in 8th place. René now being guided onto the grid spot.
5, 3, 2, 1, stop.
Make sure the wheels aren't over the white lines denoting each grid spot, so that they don't get a penalty for that, for being out of position. Drivers can't see it, so they needed to be guiding in by the engineers.
1.
Lucas Auer now in place, having got up into the points yesterday. Lucas starts 10th today with a bit of work to do. 10th times here. BMW in particular need improvements, but tyre degradation shouldn't be as bad today with lower temperatures. We'll find out, because the 55 plus 1 minute race gets underway. Round 2 of the DTM is going. It's a great start for René Rast. Also taking a good start is Philipp Englert in the number 25 blue BMW. He's trying to squeeze out the inside to gain a place or two. He's going side by side with Sheldon van der Linde, but at the head of the field it is René Rast in the lead, and Müller has got himself into second place on the run down towards La Source ahead of Robin Freins. So Freins drops down to third place. 4th place, it's Mike Rockenfeller. Looks like Sheldon van der Linde held on to that 5th place. Managed to fend off the attack of Philipp Eng, who's one of the drivers who may not have raced a DTM car here. The only one that has on the grid is Jamie Green, because he's the stalwart of the championship with over 190 race starts. But many of them, including Philipp Eng, have done lots of 24-hour racing here in GTs and used that experience both as drivers and in terms of understanding what can happen to the cars and the tyres in these high-speed corners. Right, so René Rast in the lead of the race. Müller second, Freins third, and then Rockenfeller just a little bit off them as they're going to Brussels for the first time in 4th place. Then van der Linde, Eng, Auers made up some places at the start of the race. Glock and Green didn't have a great first lap or a great start yesterday, But boy, oh boy, did he come through once the race got into its swing. So everybody still running, no dramas as yet as they go through the left-hander at Pouhon for the first time in the race. What a corner this is as well, 190 kilometres an hour. That's almost 120 miles an hour in fourth gear. Bumping and clipping over the curbs in the background. At the back of the picture there, you can see Harrison Newey, the British driver, the son of Adrian Newey, and impressive young single-seater driver before he moved into GTs, racing in Formula 3, and he was under fire from Ferdinand Habsburg, who finally gets to turn a wheel in anger in a race in DTM after obviously the long layoff with lockdown and missing the race yesterday. It's been an even longer wait for him, over 300 days since Hockenheim at the end of last season. And this season is going to be crammed into just 99 days, all 18 races. It's going to be a busy period for the teams and the drivers. Coming to the end of lap 1 then, and here's going to be a move, is it, from Timo Glock, looking to attack on the way into the turn Lucas Auer, but having to fend off Jamie Green at the same time. He was late on the brakes, but didn't gain an advantage there. Just behind you got Marco Wittmann in 10th place as well. He's dropped back a place, so Lucas Auer, one of the best starters there. He's gone up to 7th place from 10th on the grid. Muller, of course, with a good start as well, gaining a place. Still got this battle going on at the tail end of the field. Robert Kubica involved in that as well. He's just dropped behind Habsburg, and Habsburg going wheel to wheel now at the as push to pass is enabled. And look at that for a brave move on the way into Eau Rouge from the Helicam. You can see the commitment that is required. Green flag in turns 18 and 19, so I think there was a brief moment from somebody, could have been possibly Kubica at the back of the field, who dropped a bit of time at the end of the lap. Black and white warning flag for number 10 for forcing another car off the track. That's Harrison Newey, who we've been watching involved in this battle, trying now to fend off Kubica. Get a replay as they came through the chicane. Ah, there we go in the background. There was contact. That was Jonathan Aberdeen being sent around. View from Kubica, who was just behind all of that. And yes, I think the contact was with Harrison Newey. Yeah, Newey went up the inside of Kubica and just clipped the back of Jonathan Aberdeen's car. So an unfortunate start for Jonathan, having had a good run yesterday to 10th place. He got the final championship point by overtaking Marco Wittmann, coming out of the last corner on a sprint to the checkered flag. Still time to get something out of this race, though. Hopefully not too much damage to his car. We're right on board now with Lucas Auer, 7th place. Philip Eng is the driver just ahead. And then it's Sheldon van der Linde just ahead of him in 5th place. BMW's 5th, 6th and 7th. Behind him you've got Jamie Green, who's now starting to get into the flow, I think. And if he can show anything like the speed he showed in yesterday's race, it's going to be one to watch. So it was just, there he is in the number 53 car. So it was just one of those races where everything came to me. And I was surprised how easy it was to come through the field. The setup was beautiful on the car yesterday. Jamie Green getting a good run here. He looks the quicker of the three, doesn't he, as they sprint towards the line. And he's going to go for the move up the inside on the way into La Source. Jamie Green has pulled 2 or 3 good moves off at that part of the course. He's done it again on the way into the hairpin, and that puts him up to 7th place ahead of Lucas Auer. And his next target, therefore, is going to be Philip Eng, the next of the BMW. So Jamie Green, 8th on the grid. He slipped back on the first lap, but now he's getting into the groove. And he's got the confidence from yesterday's result to show how much he can very quickly carve his way through the field. René Rast, 0.5 of a second clear of Muller. That gap looks like it's beginning to come down. Yeah, looking at the first sector times, Muller was 0.3 quicker through the first sector of the lap, so it's down from a second to just 0.7 of a second. Robert Kubica there, the former Formula 1 driver, 97 Grand Prix starts, and a huge talent that we're delighted to have with us in the DTM this season. Tough call for him to come straight into this and be running at the front of the field in what's a hugely competitive series, but he showed yesterday in free practice what he can do as Jamie Green gets another great run and gets another position ahead of Philip Eng this time for 6th place. And it was all about the run as he came down the hill out of Brussels. Long before they got to the braking zone for Pouhon, he was easily through. So Green now starting to slice through, and a drive-through penalty is going to be given, I'm afraid, to Harrison Newey for that contact with Jonathan Aberdeen. So he'll have to serve that drive-through penalty fairly imminently. And that will drop him, of course, to the back of the field. He's running in 14th place at the moment. Aberdeen running, as you can see from the graphic, has got going again, and actually the car seems fine. Personal best in the first sector for Jonathan. He could do with a safety car now to bunch them all up, but at the moment, no dramas here in the race. Rast still keeping that 0.7 second advantage through the first and second sectors. Let's see if he can stave off the attack of Muller in the third sector as we look at the Austrian Philipp Eng, former Porsche Super Cup and Porsche Carrera Cup Germany driver. You've got then just behind Marco Wittmann working hard. Watch for Loic Duval as well in 11th place as he is trying to come through the order. Got a yellow flag for a little incident in the back of the towards the back of the field down at the bus stop chicane. Harrison Newey is headed into the pits already to serve his penalty. Green flag now, showing that it was just a moment at the chicane. Rast, Muller, Freins still the top three. The gap's down to 0.3 of a second though. Even less than that now. Muller is going to get the run down the Camel Straight. He's going to drive around the outside of René Rast to pick up the race lead. The championship leader back to the front of the field. He won yesterday's race by 19.5 seconds. Can he show the same level of pace? I think the others might have caught him up a bit. Certainly René Rast is looking good now. Then again, he was looking good at the start of yesterday's race until the tyres went off. The first scheduled stop of the race came from René. Everybody has to make a mandatory pit stop, a mandatory tyre change. And René was the first driver to come in. That was on lap 10 of the race. Also had an early stop from Jonathan Aberdeen, but most of them went 12 or 13 laps before they came in. There's talk that it could be a longer first stint this time. Riding on board with René Rast, down to second place now. Not too far clear of Robin Freins. Had that disappointing race yesterday, having got his maiden pole position, the Dutch driver dropping down the order and way away from the podium, finishing in the end just inside the points. A replay of the move, you can see the DRS wing and the flap opening, and Muller, who'd already got a better run coming out of Radion and onto this uphill Camel Straight. The DRS just assisting him to make life slightly easier. You can see Jamie Green starting to cut Sheldon van der Linde pretty quickly now as well, 1.1 seconds behind at the moment. Some fantastic super slow-mos here, heading up the Camel Straight. There's the side-on view of the move for the change of race lead. Fantastic stuff. Right, over the line. What's the gap going to be? Rast looks like he's held on a bit more on the final sector of the lap. So yeah, it stays at 0.6 of a second. Jamie Green, meanwhile, already around the outside on the exit to the chicane and ahead of Sheldon van der Linde. So Green up to 5th place now. He's got up to 5th place much quicker than he got up to 5th place yesterday. And he got on the podium yesterday in 2nd place. See what he can do here today. The car, again, seems to be working absolutely beautifully. Didn't qualify as well, and he said in the press conference at the end of yesterday's race he needs to try and find a bit more pace in qualifying. He just admitted to being slightly off the boil, understandably so after such a long break in qualifying, but in the race he was absolutely mint. Terrific drive from him. Championship points though add up from qualifying. René Rast scored 35 points from qualifying last year. That's the equivalent of a race win and a 4th place finish added to your total. Well, René hanging on very much to the tail of the race leader. They're just dropping Robin Freins now a little bit in 3rd place. Mike Rockenfeller, the 2013 champion, is all on his own in 4th place in the Team Phoenix car, having gained a place at the start of the race. But he'll be working hard, knowing from the team that Jamie Green is on the march. Still 8 seconds behind him, but we'll see what Jamie can do now that for the first time in the race he's got clear track ahead of him. Van der Linde 6th, Auer 7th. Loic Duval has come up to 8th place now, having started the race in 13th. And then you've got Philipp Eng and Timo Glock at the moment completing the points. Ferdinand Habsburg as well, a word for the Austrian, who's made his way up into 11th place now. One of the drivers very busy through lockdown as he was conducting his national service and working on an almost daily basis in a warehouse, operating forklift trucks and loading up food supplies for those in need, and doing a great job of that. And he's one of the drivers absolutely loving being here at Spa. We heard from Sheldon van der Linde on the grid yesterday after the race. He was saying it's such a pleasure to drive around Spa. He was beaming as he got out of the car, even though the day didn't go so well for him in terms of the race. And his quote was, "I wouldn't exactly call this a job." That's driving a DTM car around here. So having great fun, doing a great job as well at the moment. Right, this is the battle that's going on for 10th place, the final point. So Philipp Eng just over the line now in the number 25 BMW. The blue machine is 9th. Then you've got Habsburg, Glock, and looking at the inside of Glock is Fabio Scherer. That was tight, over the curbs he went. The newcomer to the series, having come from Formula 3, from single-seater racing, having a go at the ex-Grand Prix racer Timo Glock. We get a replay now of the start. Really good start from Philipp Eng off the line as he switched around. One or two others making good starts to the race as well. Lucas Auer in particular got a very good start, I noticed, which helped him to move up from the 5th row of the grid, on board with Mike Rockenfeller, down the gears into the La Source hairpin at the start of the race, down to first gear, on the throttle hard, and then controlling the wheel spin as much as he can. Yeah, Lucas Auer darted this way then that as he charged through the field, getting around the outside of Jamie Green. Jamie in turn was trying to go around the outside of Marco Wittmann. So it was all very tight, but they gave each other enough room. And it's a slow-mo view over the blind crests at the top of Eau Rouge through Radion as they head onto that massive Kemmel straight. Hard work for the drivers, physically and mentally around here, but they've all been preparing hard during the lockdown, getting much more training in than they would normally be able to do pre-season, which is one of the few advantages that we've had of lockdown. So Eng, 25, the 16 car, with this bright yellow bonnet and roof, is Glock. And this is the battle at the tail ends of the top 10. Habsburg in 9th place, having got ahead of Eng. So Habsburg 9th, Eng in the final points position, and Glock trying to get the final points position away from him. And Fabio Scherer, we know, also keen to get through. He's just behind them in the number 13 WRT Team Audi Sport car, the other blue machine, having had a look at La Source. Timo Glock's got a good run here. Philipp Eng coming under a bit more pressure under braking as they fire their way through the bus stop chicane. Timo Glock looks good on the way out of the corner as well. Other gaps to keep an eye on. Jamie Green is flying after Mike Rockenfeller 2 laps ago. The gap was over 8 seconds. Now it's just over 2 seconds. Jamie Green gunning for 4th place, maybe even on this lap the way it's going. Certainly by the end of the next lap, I think he's going to be there on the tail of the 99 car and trying to get himself up into 4th place. Going down towards Eau Rouge then. They thunder through Habsburg, Eng, Glock and Scherer as quickly as you can say it. The green and white BMW of Marco Wittmann then trying to find a way past the 2014 and 2016 champion. Started the race well yesterday, up to 5th place, dropped back in the 2nd stint, and he said that he was one of the drivers that went for used tyres. So tyres that hadn't done much. I think they'd used them in free qualifying on what was a damp track. Had shaved the tyres, and he went out on the 2nd stint, not on brand new Hankook slicks, but a slightly used pair. Timo Glock the same, and they both really suffered because of that. So I think that's something they'll try and avoid doing today, if possible, because it really was the case of just trying to hang on for some points, especially for Marco Wittmann, which he almost did. If the lap had been just 1 corner shorter, he would have been able to fend off Jonathan Aberdeen, who's incidentally up to 14th place now, having had that contact with Harrison Newey earlier on in the race. You are watching then Ferdinand Habsburg, who's looking quick. It's a good job this, given that he's missed so much track time. Missed the last 10 minutes of free practice, and he missed all the qualifying of the race yesterday. And there is the replay of him thundering through. What a real charge. 1 position gained on Wittmann, this position gained on Glock, just driving around people. He's enjoying this, I reckon. So Habsburg well up into the points now. In 9th place, he got past Eng as well later on. And then this battle that we've been seeing with the other drivers, Timo Glock involved as well. At the tail end of the top 10 is the onboard view from Timo Glock. Oof, throwing it all over the curbs. Brave stuff. Super slow-mo of Habsburg, who's been the man on the mission, as you've seen from the compilation of moves that he's put together over the last 2 or 3 laps. We'll see if he's about to catch his next target. Jamie Green 1.4 seconds behind Mike Rockenfeller now. And into the pits comes Ferdinand Habsburg, so he's the first driver.
Pace was good. You have to look after your tires now. We'll check the door. We expect 19 laps to go. 19 laps to go. DRS remaining. 9 laps. So 9 laps DRS remaining and 20 push to pass.
So that's a very early stop for Habsburg.
Okay. So go.
Not the quickest
so manage
either.
Your tires now. You have to do 19 laps on this set.
19 laps.
Manage it. Use outlap and first push lap DRS. 38 minutes to go.
19 laps, he's only done 7. So, yes, he's going to have to look after the tyres. Maybe not be quite as attacking as he was in the first part of the race. It wasn't a great pit stop, over 13 seconds. Good DTM pit stop these days. You're looking at 6.5 to 7 seconds. That didn't help the tyres either, did it, going over the gravel? Right, replay. Timo Glock on Philipp Eng. And that's at the end of the Kemmel Straight. That means Glock is up to 9th place now. Eng is in the 10th position and hanging on to the final championship point at the moment, but with a very rapid-looking Fabio Scherer just behind him, one of the 3 rookies in the championship this year. And again, one of the young drivers that's come into DTM with largely a single-seater background coming into this point of his career, but adapting very quickly, it seems. The young driver from Engelberg came up through Italian and German Formula 4, then European Formula 3 for a season and a half, and now into the DTM and doing a good job. Right, Muller, the leader, 0.8 clear the last time check. Doesn't look like it's 0.8 anymore. Let's see when they come over the line. Now it's come down a bit, 0.7. And so absolutely René Rast hanging on to Muller this time. He couldn't live with him. Nobody could live with Muller yesterday. It's a different story today. A bit of a lock-up in the background from Freins in 3rd place. There is Rockenfeller, who for the first time has just edged back away now from Green. Green had got the gap down to 1.2 seconds. It's down, or out now, to 2.2. So there is Mike Rockenfeller, who is starting to feel the heat from Jamie Green, catching him up, getting closer in the mirrors, but he's responded well on the previous lap. That's the view. Suddenly, the pit walls disappeared, and it's a million miles beneath you. That's how quick they fire themselves up Eau Rouge and Raidillon. And now they're at 300 kilometres an hour down the Kemmel Straight and down towards the pretty heavy braking zone for the Lecombe sequence of corners, the right, left, right flick that then takes you to the highest elevation of the circuit, and then you start to fire your way downhill through Bruxelles and down towards Pouhon. So Timo Glock now just edging away from Philipp Eng after that move we saw on the replay. Fabio Scherer, the 3rd car in your picture, desperate to try and get himself his first DTM points in what's of course only his 2nd start. Finished in 12th place yesterday. And whoa, big twitch there. Loic Duval pushing on hard. Duval in 8th place. Auer in 7th place, just ahead of him in the 22 car. But Loic getting a really big twitch on there. He's made something ground up at the start of this race, having qualified out of the top 10 in 13th. He's made 5 positions up, but it looked like he was absolutely on the ragged edge there from that overhead shot. Didn't seem to have lost too much ground though. Caught it beautifully. Done a few seasons in DTM now. The first couple were struggles for him, but he's a class driver. You don't win the Le Mans 24-hour if you are not, and more good results starting to come now. Still looking for that first win, but that podium yesterday added to the podiums that he picked up in the 2019 season. So there is Loic Duval. Just looking at the graphic, the gap's opened up again between the top 2. They've come past the start-finish line, 0.9 of a second apart. Freins about a second and a half behind them in 3rd place. You're watching the battle for 7th place between Lucas Auer, the Austrian, who himself, before he moved into touring car racing, was a very notable single-seater racer. Lucas with a very good pedigree, in particular in the Formula 3 European Championship, in which he was often a front-runner. Right, he's under big pressure coming out of the source, isn't he, Lucas Auer, because Loic Duval in the number 28 Audi is right with him now. Is he going to brave it around the outside? Yes, he is. Fantastic move. Just guns it around the outside on that run down to Eau Rouge. At the top of Raidillon, he pulls away and onto the Kemmel Straight. He gets away from the BMW. That was brave and committed, I think is the word. So another place gain for Loic. 13th up to 7th now for the Frenchman. Not a great deal Lucas Auer could do about that. Much more momentum and traction coming out of the Le Source hairpin. And then behind that scrap, watching the battle between Philipp Eng and Timo Glock, 9th and 10th, with Fabio Scherer just behind. Marco Wittmann getting a bit bigger in the mirrors as well, in the green and white BMW. The Team RMG driver, maybe opting to have the reverse of yesterday. A slow start, but a good, strong finish. You can see them understeering a little bit here now. as they get towards possibly the end of the ideal tyre life. Here's a replay then. Right, you have the inside line, I'll go the outside line. Don't care, I'm going for it. Look, Duval grits his teeth, holds his breath, clenches the steering wheel, and hangs on for dear life. Once you've made the decision, you've got to go with it. There's no backing out of it. And here, a replay of this battle which keeps on happening between Eng and Glock. And keep on overtaking each other at various points of the circuit, in particular the Kemmel Straight. Glock back down to 10th. Scherer watching it all go on just behind in 11th place, the Swiss driver. And another Swiss driver at the head of the field. You're about to watch start another lap. He goes past the commentary box, down into the La Source hairpin. Freins is keeping them in sight, so somebody else that's not dropping away like he was yesterday in terms of his pace. Got the lead initially, lost the lead a couple of laps into the race when Muller got past him down the Kemmel Straight. There's the shot as they go through Eau Rouge. Gap has steadied at around about 0.8 of a second for the last few laps. And there is another wonderful super slow-mo of the Team Abt Sportsline driver being pursued by the Team Rosberg driver. And not that far away from them, still very much in contention for this, is Muller's teammate Robin Freins in his Team Abt Sportsline car as well. Glock and Eng are about to go at it again, I reckon, aren't they? As Kubica comes past the commentary box window and into his pit stop. So, second of the drivers to come in is Robert Kubica on lap 10. Eng with the DRS and the better run on the Kemmel Straight. He's going to get ahead of Glock and arrive first as they make their way through, Scherer, as they make their way through Le Combe. So Fabio Scherer ahead of Glock now. Eng has edged away on that lap. So Glock's now out of the points from 9th a lap ago. He's down to 11th place now. Fabio Scherer looking for his first points as Robert Kubica almost loses the car on the exit to the pits. That was a heart-in-mouth moment. He caught it, and I think he avoided any contact with the pit wall. Just as we joined him, that looked like a big moment, didn't it, as he got on the gas. No tyre warmers allowed, so I'm going to be a little bit careful on the new tyres with all that horsepower, 600 horsepower to unleash. Looks as calm and cool as a cucumber, though, doesn't he, Robert Kubica? He's seen it all, he's done it all, a Grand Prix winner. A Polish driver, an immensely popular figure in his home country and internationally as well. Many fans of motor racing really rate him and wished he could have had a longer and a more successful Formula One career, because we all think he could have been a Formula One champion. In fact, the year of his accident, 2011, Robert said some time afterwards that he'd actually basically agreed a deal to become a Ferrari driver the year after, but he never got the chance. And that would have been impressive to see. Williams was the team with which he scored his, or BMW Williams with which he scored his Grand Prix win in 2008. Right, Muller's pulling away from Rast. Suddenly, he's got his head down. And I think it's more a case of Rast going backwards, because Freins has caught him up as well. The LED display in the car tells you how many DRS uses they've got left in the race. And you're looking at Philipp Eng, who now, having got away from Timo Glock, has got Fabio Scherer for company, because we saw Scherer putting off the move down the Kemmel Straight, and Scherer over the top of the curbs at Radion is going to go for this down the Kemmel Straight. So this the battle for 9th place. Fabio in the 13 car, Philip in the 25 car, drives past him, and look behind, because Jonathan Aberdeen in the blue and white number 27 BMW is about to get ahead of Timo Glock. So the Team RMR driver gets through as well. Synchronised overtaking. Timo Glock is now struggling, isn't he? From being well in the points in 9th place, now he's 12th. So it might be time for Timo to come in and try and get some fresh tyres on, or is he just going to suffer for now and then try and have a shorter stint where he can push more aggressively on the new tyres in the second half of the race? We're getting to the point now where we expect them to start coming in fairly soon. So most of them pitted between laps 12 and 14 yesterday. And here's another view of the Jonathan Aberdeen move from the camera at Le Combe. He had to be pretty brave on the brakes still. But it's good to see that Jonathan's car is undamaged, seemingly undamaged, or at least not badly damaged after that contact at the chicane early in the race. So from the back of the field, Jonathan now up to 12th place. And Timo Glock has been demoted by him as well, hasn't he? So Jonathan, another place gained, 11th. This is going well for him. Right, tyres being readied. And it looks like maybe Sheldon van der Linde is going to be one of the drivers on the way in. We've only had 2 pit stops so far, as shown by the graphic on the left-hand side of your picture. And the green, yep, Rockenfeller's coming in. Habsburg pitted on lap 7. Earliest pit stop so far. Ooh, big lock up there on the way into the bus stop chicane. Doesn't matter because he's going to get rid of the tyres anyway. As into the pits comes Fabio Scherer, but that was a huge lock-up on the way into the chicane. Keen to make the in-lap count. René Rast did a really good in-lap yesterday, even though he had a slightly longer pit stop than some of those around him. He managed to gain time in that whole window. So Rockenfeller is about to be released.
He has 8 laps old tyres. 8 laps old.
René Rast under fire here in second place from Robin Freins. He's having to work hard to keep the blue Audi behind him. Robin trying this way, then that on the way to the Brussels hairpin. He's at the inside again. Left-hand kink coming up, so René Rast will fend him off once more. It's starting to be hard work now for René. What's the strategy going to be? I don't think he's going to want to do a 2 pit stop strategy again. It wasn't really a strategy. He just had no choice yesterday because he was losing that much pace, even on that second set of slick tyres. And today, I want to push this as long as he can. He's gone further than he went yesterday, that's for sure. Only 10 laps yesterday before he called it a day with the tyres and came in for the pit stops, but he's definitely struggling. Muller just seems to be able to manage the tyres beautifully. So with Rockenfeller and van der Linde and also Scherer having pitted with 12 laps compete. Oh dear, that's Harrison Newey's car. It doesn't look like that's going to go anywhere fast, does it? So Harrison, I'm afraid, looking like he's headed for retirement. Timo Glock losing another position, this time to Marco Wittmann. He's been losing them all, or most of them, down the Kemmel Straight. Or down the straights. So Timo Glock. Is it pain for gain as René Rast starts for the pits? He did manage just about to stay second going through the chicane, but Robin Freins was almost touching his rear wing.
Call. We are racing only Müller and Freins. Freins stayed out, Müller stayed out.
So Rast in.
How many DRS and push to pass I have the left?
You're on +9 to Freins and -2 laps on Müller. Push to pass.
+9, so he has 9 laps less.
If you watch qualifying this morning, you'll know that René Rast wants as much information as he can. After he got his pole lap, he wants to know how much did he get pole by, who was behind him, where were the best sectors, where did he lose out. Just absorbing all of that information, computing it, and then trying to turn it into an advantage for himself. And now he's asking how many DRS and push to pass have I got left compared to the drivers I'm racing against, i.e. Freins and Müller. He wants to know exactly what the situation is. Mike Rockenfeller on new tyres, back out. He's rejoined behind René Rast, as you'd expect, having run in 4th place to René's 2nd before they made their respective pit stops. So the top 7 in the race yet to make their mandatory stop. Rast is the leading pit stopper from Rockenfeller, van der Linde and Loic de Waal currently. Then Auer, then Habsburg, then Scherer, Kubica, Harrison Newey in the pits with a problem. And Audi now getting ready for Loic de Waal, possibly. Let's see. It's the AB Sportsline team, so that will be either for Robin Freins or the race leader, Nico Müller. So the AB Sportsline team ready to go. Is Freins going to try and get a quick lap in here, having perhaps been delayed by René Rast for a lap or so? Or is it going to be the leader? We'll find out in just a moment. It's going to be Nico Müller. So Nico comes in, the race leader, making his pit stop 14 laps into the race. And yesterday in the race, having managed his tyres very well.
Brake balance, it's 12 laps to go. You're virtually P1. It's a fight between you, Robin, and René. René just stopped 1 lap before you. He has still 9 laps DRS left.
I'll keep an eye on the tracker and find out where Freins and Rast are relative to Müller.
Go, go, go. René should be 3 seconds behind you on pit exit.
Muller released and heading down the pit lane. A look out of the window.
The other cars did not pit yet.
And over the line now to start a new lap goes René Rast. You'll just see him coming into your picture now in the red and white Audi. And there in the green and white Audi, out of the pit lane exit comes the 51 car of Nico Muller. Has rejoined just in front of Marco Wittmann on the track. Wittmann yet to make his pit stop. So the team reckoned at 3 seconds. It does look to be about right, that. Around about 3 seconds over René Rast. There he is in the 33 car. So Muller effectively retains the race lead from Rast. Then Freins. Marco Wittmann wheel to wheel here with Nico Muller. One of them on brand new tyres, one of them on slightly older tyres. No contest really. Nico Muller gets through. It's 4-track position. There's no need for Marco Wittmann to make life easy for Nico Muller, but a very different strategy being deployed today from BMW and from the two-time champion Marco Wittmann in particular. We'll ride once more with René Rast working away at the wheel in the cockpit of this wonderful DTM machine. Audi R5 coming up now. He'll want to deal with Marco Wittmann as quickly as possible, but he'll have to sit behind him on the way through the left-hander at Pouhon. Marco did a good job here. Robin Freins leading the race, but yet to make his pit stop. His last lap time was a 2:11.8, so he's managing the tyres very well, I would say. That's a pretty competitive lap time. Nico Muller getting away now from René Rast, because René cannot find a way past Marco Wittmann. As I say, Marco is not. This is for position, so Marco's not going to wave him by. René Rast trying to get himself up to 5th place, but effectively he's losing time here. And his key battle really, not just with Muller, but is with Robin Freins, because you remember when he came into the pits, he had Robin Freins right underneath his rear wing. He does not want to be losing even half a second at this phase of the race. And as long as Robin is in clear air, he might just stay out as long as the tyres are working for him. All right, in they come. Jonathan Aberdeen heading into the pits. René Rast now, I think, will gun it on the way into La Source. He's got the better run, the better traction. He's got fresher Hankook tyres on. Side by side as they go past the commentary box window. He's on the outside line, but he's going to get there easily before the braking point. As they drop down the gears for La Source, down to first gear. It is up to 5th place now for René Rast, but he lost time there, didn't he? Muller's last lap was a 2:08.8, 208.8 for Rast as well. So I actually didn't lose that much time. Muller wasn't really able to take too much advantage of that. It was a little bit in it, but not much. Aberdeen, fresh tyres on, doing a good recovery job here in the Team RMR BMW. Back on board with the double champion René Rast, attacking hard now, having found that way past Wittmann. And you've got Philippe Eng here making a move, charging up the inside of Ferdinand Habsburg. Again, a brave move coming out of La Source and down towards Eau Rouge. What can Philippe Eng do? Good drive from him yesterday. Managed the car well, managed the tyres well. And was another one making late moves, as well as René Rast, to get himself up into the top 6 in the race. And Philippe could well be in the points. So the only ones yet to pit are the leader, who was 3rd before the pit stops, Robin Freins. There he is. Any moment now, I would suggest. And also Marco Wittmann is going very long on this first stint. So he'll have a short stint, but he'll have really good tyres and he'll really be able to attack. That's Robin Freins coming in then. So the race leader coming in. Has he done enough to get himself ahead of René Rast is the first question.
Copy pit lane, track time is similar. You had a really good pace on the first stint. You're fighting for the win eventually at the end. You will be close to Rocky on the exit and Green also behind.
Ahead of Blanchimont.
Rocky box on which lap?
2 laps ago, 3 laps ago.
Ahead of Blanchimont through the chicane at the moment for the 2 drivers he's up against. Over the line goes Muller. Over the line now goes Rast. They're about to go into La Source. There they are.
Watch the white line.
He's not going to do it. Robin Freins is going to be 3rd at best in this. Marco Wittmann is going to come past him, but he's yet to make his pit stop. What about Rocky? Mike Rockenfeller next one into La Source. He was 4th before all the pit stops started. He's still 4th. Jamie Green 5th. But they are, I would say, closer to Robin Freins than they were before this. Their problem is maybe going to come at the end of the race, because Robin is going to have fresher tyres for the last few laps of the race than they will have, having pitted as the last of the real front runners. Not the last to pit though, that's Marco Wittmann still out there in third place. Well, you can see Robin Freund's trying to generate some heat into the tyres, and Mike Rockenfeller suddenly upon him down the Camel Straight. Not yet past him though. This effectively the battle for the final spot on the podium once Marco Wittmann comes in to make his pit stop. One car just in front, one car just behind. You're looking from Mike Rockenfeller's rear camera at Jamie Green in this three-way fight now for, as I say, that final spot on the podium. Jamie Green close enough to knock on the door now. You see the four rings of the Audi badge clear as day as they thunder down now towards this left-hander at Pouhon. It's not really an overtaking opportunity here. You can see the track falls away midway through the apex. Still turning, going downhill now. Incredibly quick corner, and they'll go down towards the S-bend section at Le Fan next up. And there's Nico Muller, the race leader, 2.6 seconds clear of René Rast. Third at the moment, yet to make the stop though, Marco Wittmann. And then this battle between Robin Freund, Mike Rockenfeller and Jamie Green as well. Jamie just dropping back a little bit now. They'll head up through Blanchimont. Full chat. Top speed over 260 kilometres an hour. Get even quicker before they get to the braking zone for the chicane. Unbelievably quick through there. Right, here on the brakes, Jamie Green coming back at Mike Rockenfeller, with whom you ride. About to make their way back onto the start-finish straight. 17 minutes plus 1 lap remaining on the clock. Mike Rockenfeller through.
Again with the tires.
Already slightly unhappy about the tyres here, Mike Rockenfeller. He's got no chance, I would say, with Robin Freund. So now that he's got up to temperature, with the fresher tyres on, he's pulling away in the number 4 Audi. But Jamie Green, well, a similar strategy to him. Right with him now. Much closer as they make their way up over the top of Raidillon. This could be the chance for Jamie to get ahead of Rockenfeller. We've got a yellow flag down at the chicane, so somebody's had a moment down there. Timo Glock and Ferdinand Habsburg have just come past, so maybe it was one of those two. Jamie Green doesn't actually get close enough to attack on the way down through the Kemmel Straight. You go on board with Timo now in 13th place. Right on his tail, you can't see it, is Ferdinand Habsburg. 13th, 14th. Ooh, look at that for a ride on the way through Eau Rouge and Raidillon. 270 kilometres an hour, up to 280, pushing up towards 300 imminently before they hit the brakes. There's Jonathan Aberdeen in the foreground of the picture, number 27. He's got himself now a chance maybe of some points here. He's 11th, so one more place gained and he'll be in the points. Got to try and catch Fabio Scherer, who's looking for his first ever points in DTM. And then Philipp Eng. It's not quite working out for Philipp in this race, unless he's been very smart about this and he's going to keep the pace going much quicker if he's really looked after his tyres for the second stint. He was certainly confident coming into the race after that good performance yesterday. But Aberdeen has got the better of him at the moment, and Eng just starting to fall away now. The two leaders go through. Then a big gap. It's 13, nearly 14 seconds now before the third place car of Marco Wittmann will come through into your shot. Yet to make a pit stop. He's doing a good job, isn't he, of nursing those tyres. His last lap time, Marco Wittmann, was a 2:11, so he's just about the slowest out there, but he's not lost anywhere near as much time as I think he should have on those tyres. He's come in now, though, so Marco Wittmann coming into the pit lane. As you look at Mike Rockenfeller and Jamie Green going over the start-finish line.
Just push now as much as I can.
Not much you can do now. You're stuck with the tyres you've got. Push as hard as you can. And Jamie Green, similar tyre wear, is with him. There's not much between them in terms of overall lap times. There are certainly points where Jamie is a tad quicker. And no longer do you have to be within 3 seconds of the car ahead to use DRS these days. It's only the leader that can't use them. Right, Marco Wittmann, where's he going to come out? Can he get some points out of this? Timo Glock has just come past.
Watch the white line.
So he's going to be out of the points when he rejoins, but he's going to have one hell of a quick car when he does get back out there. So there's Glock. He falls in behind him. That'll be 13th place. But watch him go in the final few laps. I reckon points are easily on the cards for Marco Wittmann. because he's going to fly for the next 5 or 6 laps of this race. Glock, Eng, Aberdeen, Scherer, Auer, I would say, are all within reach. Oh, in again comes the number 62 car of Ferdinand Habsburg. He came in really early, remember, after 7 laps. So he's the only one that's deliberately gone for a 2-stop strategy here. Back out he will go. And he's going to fly as well. We saw he was pretty attacking when he had new rubber on at the start of the race as well. So it's a different call. It's a call which definitely, in hindsight, for many of them, could have worked yesterday. René Rast even managed to make it work to a point to get 5th place. But today, the tyres are hanging on 3 or 4 laps longer because it's cooler conditions, cooler air conditions, cooler track conditions as well. Right, there is your race leader being hunted down by the driver that beat him to the championship last year, Nico Müller, the Swiss, and René Rast, the German driver. Over the line they go, just over a second between them. And on that lap, Müller was actually very fractionally quicker, 208.626 versus a 208.677. Slightly slower than them, but not much. 208.9 for Robin Freins in 3rd place, but he's 12.5 seconds back. Here we go again, over the line, nose to tail. Jamie Green versus Mike Rockenfeller. Jamie's got the inside line. He's only got one thing on his mind. Through he goes at the inside. He's waited patiently for 3 or 4 laps, but now he's finally ahead of Mike Rockenfeller. So 4th place now for Jamie. Not quite the huge progress he made in yesterday's race, but again, he's made really strong running in the race to go up to 4th place. Remember, he's 2nd in the championship as well coming into this race. A former championship runner-up, top 3 in the championship several times, and the most experienced DTM driver on the grid. He'll get his 200th race start later on this season. So a replay of Timo Glock, who came ahead of Marco Wittmann when Marco came out of the pits, but Marco, we know, has got spanking new tyres on, and into the chicane at the end of the lap already is through. Timo again suffering in the second half of the race. So Marco Wittmann, that will put him up to 12th position. Now he's got to try and hunt down Philipp Eng. He's about 6.5 seconds behind Philipp. He was 4/10 quicker on that lap, but for most of the lap he was still getting the tyres up to speed and still trying to find a way past Timo Glock. So I think we'll get a better picture of how far up the order Marco Wittmann can get once we get his next lap time in on a clear track. You're watching the battle for the lead of the race, 0.7 of a second. It's never been very much between these two in this race. Little bit of needle between them yesterday. As I said, René Rast not overly impressed with Nico Müller's move early on in the race, at the start of the race down to Eau Rouge. But Nico said, well, you know, 2 professionals gave each other enough room. It was fine. But of course, he was the one that came out on top. And René Rast, he's definitely beginning to close the gap now. It's down to just under 0.6 of a second. He comes down more under braking on the way into the La Source hairpin. Down to 1st, up to 2nd. He'll be in 6th gear by the time he gets to Eau Rouge. Chasing down the leader. Just over half a second between them now. The Kemmel Straight coming up. Use of DRS possible. Can it be that we'll get René Rast, the pole sitter, back into the lead of the race by the time they get to the end of this straight? You're right on board with him now. Here we go. He closes, he pulls out of the slipstream, he gets alongside, he gets the racing line, and he goes in front. René Rast, the new race leader, down to 2nd place for Nico Müller. Müller will now, of course, get the advantage of being able to get a tow next time they go onto the Kemmel Straight, but has he got the pace to hang on to Rast? Whatever changes they made to that car overnight, they've absolutely worked. And remember, René's teammate at Rosberg is a driver that did rather well yesterday in terms of his setup, Jamie Green. And I'm sure that will have helped René's case. Rast leads the way, looking for his 1st win of the season in only the 2nd race of the season. So this terrific run of consistency as well, stretching back, well, most of his DTM career, but certainly stretching back to last year, when he was regularly winning races in the closing 4 rounds of the season. He had an 8th place finish in the last race at Hockenheim, but before that, he'd barely been out of the top 3 for the whole season, really. Sorry, not 8th place, that was in the qualifying session. He was at Hockenheim, continued his run of podium finishes with a 3rd place finish from 8th on the grid. So yesterday was his 6th consecutive podium finish. This could be his 7th, and it would be his 4th win out of the last 4 race meetings if you go back to last year. On board with Mike Rockenfeller. 5th place. Falling away from Jamie Green, perhaps coming under fire from Sheldon van der Linde. Although Sheldon was a tiny bit slower, a couple of tenths slower on the previous lap. So Rockenfeller and a solid weekend here. Sheldon van der Linde, though, impressing once more. Best placed BMW out there. Lucas Auer and Jonathan Aberdeen also in the points for BMW currently, running respectively in 8th and 10th positions. Jonathan's done well, hasn't he, considering he was off into a spin after that contact with Harrison Newey early in the race. Harrison, the only driver to drop out. And given that there's been so little time to prepare for the race in terms of the teams actually being able to work on the cars and get them ready and go testing, actually the rate of attrition has been impressive, hasn't it? Because we only had yesterday Sheldon van der Linde having a problem with his car, technically, although he still got out and finished the race. Ferdinand Habsburg didn't start the race, but that was a crash, that wasn't a technical issue. Harrison Newey's had an issue today with the car, which we don't know the exact cause of that yet, but everybody else, apart from struggling to cope with the heat and the tyres, technically the cars have all run absolutely brilliantly. So really impressive stuff from the teams here to get these cars running so quickly and so reliably out of the box. 7.5 minutes to go. The battle for 5th place. Sheldon van der Linde upholding honours at the moment for BMW, as he did in the qualifying session this morning. Best placed BMW in yesterday's race was also 6th, but yesterday it was Philip Eng. So can he go one better here? Jamie Green is about 6.5 seconds ahead of this pair. So if Sheldon can get Mike Rockenfeller, probably, unless Jamie's times really fall off, probably that's going to be as high up the order as he can get. But still, a good effort this for the youngster. A driver who's built up his touring car experience over the last few seasons. Younger brother of another very quick GT driver these days, Calvin van der Linde. And great to see South Africa with some real young representation out there, doing well with Jonathan Aberdeen in the field as well. Sheldon van der Linde continuing to push hard. South African VW Cup champion and Polo Cup champion. Did a season in the Audi TT Cup as well, supporting the DTM a few years ago, and was a front runner in that, finished in 4th place. Leader René Rast through the La Source hairpin with just under 6.5 minutes to go, 0.8 of a second clear of Muller, so edging away from him, but not screaming away from him. And actually, again, on that lap, there was only 0.2 of a second between them. A 2:10.646 for Rast, a 2:10.806 for Muller. So Muller's not completely out of this yet. And we know how well he looked after his tyres yesterday. So is he just saving it up for one last attack, maybe on the last 2 or 3 laps of the race? Potentially he is. Robin Freins is catching them a little bit as well. Well, fair bit actually on the last lap. A second quicker, but he's still 10.4 seconds down. You never know though. They start holding each other up. He might just have half a chance. It seems unlikely, but we saw some big drop-offs with the tyres yesterday very quickly. Green in 5th, Rockenfeller in 6th. As you can see, the first driver in your shot, and then hopping and skipping and dancing over the tarmac on the rise up towards the right-hander at Le Combe is Sheldon van der Linde in 6th place. Look at the mix of nationalities we have up there in the top 6 as well. A German leads, a Swiss is 2nd, a Dutch driver is 3rd, British driver 4th, and Rockenfeller from Germany in 5th, a South African, then a Frenchman, then an Austrian, then another Swiss behind, and finally Jonathan Aberdeen from South Africa in 10th place. So truly international lineup at the head of the field. The gap coming down a bit more in this lap and through the first sector. 0.3 quicker through sector 1 was Muller, and that's why he's got the gap down, or he had got the gap down to just over half a second. It opens up a bit more through sector 2, or it looks like it has. But I reckon by the end of the lap, Muller's going to be within half a second again, because he's going to try and outbrake René Rast now on the way into the chicane. Here we go, closes up. Close up of René Rast, the race leader, clipping the curbs. Right rear comes clean off the ground, over the line. Muller getting closer and closer. We'll see what the gap is. 0.8 of a second becomes 0.6 of a second. So Muller winding things up now. René Rast is going to be kept busy for this last 4 minutes plus 1 lap of the race. So 2 minutes 11 to get around. I think there'll be 3 laps to go, I reckon, including the one they've just started. Do this lap, then another one, but time will run out just before they get to the line, so that will then become the 3rd lap around, will become their last lap, their extra lap. Slow-mo René Rast. That was the moment he just thudded the curbs on the way into the chicane. Taking a real pounding, but these cars are built strong. Muller pushing even harder, gets even closer. 0.3 of a second, the gap between them now. Any other gaps closing up? You know, Van der Linde still pushing on hard, has closed the gap a bit more to Rockenfeller in that battle that we've been keeping an eye on for 5th place. So Van der Linde now just a second behind Rockenfeller, taking a tighter line there. Nico Muller, which suggests he's got good grip in the tyre still relatively. Out wide, René Rast is pushing as hard as he possibly can to try and get this race victory. Nico Muller, full of confidence at the moment. Matched him and beat René Rast on quite a few occasions last year, and he's getting better and better as a driver in the DTM. René Rast looking for his 18th DTM victory, and 5 wins now for Nico Muller, so he'll be looking for his 6th. Fabio Scherer versus Philipp Eng you're looking at now. Fabio in the number 13 car, and Philipp Eng coming back at him. This is for the final championship point for 10th place. Audi versus BMW. In fact, Fabio Scherer has got 4 BMWs behind him next up. Marco Wittmann, though, is the one on the freshest tyres of all, and he simply drives up the inside of Philipp Eng. Remember, he was the last of the pit stoppers on a very short second stint. A different strategy, but expect him to now start carving his way through the field. One is dispatched, another one possibly by the end of the lap the way he's going. Fabio Scherer next in his sightlines. And Marco Wittmann, if he can do that, will be in the points, but he'll want more than just 10th place here. And certainly that is a possibility with a couple of more cars just ahead. Certainly he could get up to 8th place into Lucas Auer, who's only a few seconds up the road. Any more than that might be a push, but you never know. Right, 1 minute and 3/4 to go. The race leader still René Rast, still with this green and white Audi in his mirrors though, because yesterday's race winner and the championship leader Nico Muller is just applying pressure as much as he can. He hasn't really got close enough in the last few laps to fully get alongside, fully get a tow down the straights, but he is making sure that René Rast has to work that car and those tyres as hard as possible. The more he can make him work, the more the chance that René's car is going to start struggling. Well, the team has done a fantastic job to give René a much improved car today. I know the weather conditions are different, cooler, but still, they've worked hard, I reckon, to get this car where it is. And they've got just the man for the job in René Rast. Through down towards Pouhon they go, into Pouhon now. No dramas for the race leader. The car looks to be fairly well planted. Still hanging on to him, though, Nico Muller. There's nothing between the pair of them. The gap's ebbed and flowed between 0.3 of a second and 0.6 of a second for the last couple of laps here. Jonathan Aberdeen, by the way, is almost on the tail of Lucas Auer, so that could be a place gained and up to 8th position. The problem is you've got Marco Wittmann coming after them all with a much more rapid car, much fresher tyres. So the place he gains, he might be losing to Wittmann in the not too distant future. Not long to go, though, of course. Clock's going to tick down before the end of this lap. The 55 minutes will be up, and it's +1 lap then. So they're not quite going to make it, I don't think. It's going to be tight. René Rast through the chicane. No, clock is going to tick down to 0 now. So it should be the start of the final lap of the race. Over the line they go. Closer than ever, it seems, down towards La Source. Confirmation on the graphic, and the teams and the drivers will know this is the last lap, this is the last chance. It so often comes down to just a few points in this championship. So decision to be made now for Nico Muller. He's going to be the championship leader at the end of the weekend if he finishes second. But he'll lose points to René Rast. René's not his closest rival at the moment after yesterday's 5th place finish. But he knows full well that René's very likely going to be one of his big rivals for the championship as we go on through the next few months. So does he take a risk and try and get those points away from Rast and get the race win? Or does he settle for second place? To me, it looks like he wants the former option. He wants to go for it and push hard. It's always a risk. When you overtake, there's always an element of risk here. But if you don't take the risk, you don't get the points. And if a chance came and you didn't take it and you ended up costing yourself a few points at the end of the season, you might regret it. Conversely, if you go for it and it doesn't pay off and you end up in the barriers, you kick yourself as well. So it's a fine line here. At the moment, René Rast isn't really giving him the option because he's not really giving any opportunity for Nico Müller to try and find a way through. Further back, Marco Wittmann's just 4.5 seconds now behind Jonathan Aberdeen, who's just fallen away a little bit from Lucas Auer, having been right with him last time I looked at the screen. Oh, a lock up there for Nico Müller as he makes his way into Le Fan. They come out of there, kicking up the dust is the race leader, René Rast. He's just keeping this 0.3 of a second advantage. His biggest worry, probably his only worry now, is going to be going down into that final bus stop chicane. That will be the only chance for Nico Müller, but I am not sure he's going to be close enough by the time they get there to even have a desperate lunge. René Rast has done an exemplary job here as they go through Blanchimont for the final time in the race. This is the only chance coming up then for Nico Müller. The flag is almost ready. It's being unfurled. René Rast, he's going to get there. It's going to be so close. Müller was right underneath his rear wing, but René Rast is just about going to hang on to this to take his first win of the season, his 18th DTM victory. It's René Rast that takes the checkered flag. Nico Müller second.
Yeah! Great, great. Superb race. Yahoo!
ILS off, slow in lap, pick up please. Wow.
Nice job.
Very nice, René, very nice, good job.
Was very nice.
Thanks, guys.
I think intense is the word. If you were a part of the team, Rosberg, watching that from the pit wall, from the timing screens, from the monitors, you would have been quite tense watching that final run into the chicane. Calmest man of all was probably René Rast. Terrific job. Did absolutely everything right on that final lap. Not for the want of trying, though. Nico Müller finishes in second place. Just 0.4 of a second between them at the end. So Robin Freins third. Green has crossed the line in fourth. Rockenfeller fifth. Sixth for Van der Linde. Excellent job. Then it's Loic de Waal. More good points in seventh. Lucas Auer eighth. Jonathan Aberdeen ninth. Marco Wittmann got a point, but no more. 10th place for Marco. One more than he got yesterday, I suppose, but it hasn't worked for him today either. Philippe Eng 11th, Fabio Scherer in 12th place after some spirited driving. Timo Glock fading away to 13th place and classified a lap down. Robert Kubica in 14th place, dropping back late on with Ferdinand Habsburg also a lap down, 15th, and Harrison Newey is the only non-finisher in the race. Oh, what a season we have got lined up here, because it's a continuation, it seems, of 2019. René Rast versus Nico Müller, but I reckon even closer. 25 points are going to go the way of René Rast. That's going to move him on, by my maths, to 39 points. And Nico Müller's going to pick up 18 points for second place. So that will move him on to 46 points, only 7 between them, I reckon. We'll get confirmation of that when the graphic comes up. But there is your race result. Rast wins, Müller second, Freins third, then it's Green fourth, Rockenfeller fifth, Van der Linde sixth, de Waal seventh, Auer, Aberdeen and Wittmann all in the points. Sheldon Van der Linde as the best placed BMW in 6th position. Just 0.4 of a second between the top two after nearly an hour of racing. Philippe Eng just outside the points today, having had a good run to 6th yesterday. Fabio Scherer 12th, Timo Glock 13th. Robert Kubica on his debut weekend in 14th place, with Habsburg 15th, and an early retirement for Harrison Newey, one of the rookie drivers for DTM 2020. So a fantastic performance from René Rast. He knows he had to work oh so hard for that victory. Nico Müller really did keep him honest for the last 10 minutes of that race in particular. But René Rast didn't give him a chance, didn't make a single mistake. Had he done that, he would have lost the race, because Nico was that close. Absolute delight down in the team garage.
Yeah, man! Yeah! Yeah!
And it begins.
Yeah, man. Well done, well done, yeah! Great, great, superb race. Yahoo!
Begins to sink in now, doesn't it?
Slow in lap, pick up please.
Team Rosberg actually based in Belgium as well, so a team which was founded back in the early 1990s by Keke Rosberg, the 1982 Formula One world champion. Started out with the Opel brand in DTM and have been a big integral part of it since. 2 teams titles in the DTM and 2 drivers titles, both thanks to René Rast, and the drivers titles going his way in 2017, 2019, and the teams titles the same years, with great assistance from Jamie Green, the other driver, who's also had a very good weekend here, coming all the way through to second yesterday from outside of the top 10 and up to 4th place today. I mean, pretty satisfied with that, I would imagine. So here are the provisional points after that race. Nico Müller, 46, the early season championship leader. 39 points for René Rast in second. Jamie Green slips back to third, but a strong start on 30 points. Robin Freins looks like he's going to be a real contender as well. 22 points for him. 22 points for a very consistent Mike Rockenfeller this weekend. 21 for Loic Duval in 6th place, aided by that podium finish in yesterday's first race. Next, we're going to move on to the Lausitz Ring in 2 weeks' time, and in 3 weeks' time, because it's the first of 3 back-to-back weekends that we're going to have in the DTM. As I say, crammed into less than 100 days will be this new DTM season, finally getting underway in August when it should have got underway in the springtime. We all know the reasons why, but it's just great to be back racing. Still a real shame we can't have the crowd here, because it's always just a mega atmosphere at the DTM. Packed grandstands, great carnival atmosphere, knowledgeable fans all cheering on their drivers, and we just hope that it's not too long before we return to some form of normality. But at least for now, we get to see the cars and drivers in action, and we can be grateful for that. So some slow-mo replays now of your top 3. Robin Freins getting some payback for his efforts this weekend. Would have liked the win yesterday from pole. At least he's got a podium out of the weekend. 3rd place for Robin. Nico Müller, well, weekends do not get much better than this. A win yesterday, a 2nd place finish today, and additional points picked up for being in the top 3 in both of the qualifying sessions. Frustration yesterday for René Rast, but he still dug out a 5th place finish, and today he was on top of it all to take the race victory. So René Rast now steps up onto the podium. Very different looking podium ceremony than we'd have in normal times, but it means just as much to these drivers. Nico Müller now invited onto the podium for the 2nd time this weekend, walking away, as we've seen, with the championship lead. And first podium of the season for the Dutchman, Robin Freins, who's driven really well this weekend. The maiden pole and the first podium of the season. And it's Kimmo Limatainen who's going to pick up the team award for Team Rosberg, the team manager, the team principal of the 2-time teams champions. So well done to him on his efforts. That team have done a terrific job this weekend. German national anthem now for your race winner. You can bet your house that won't be the last time you hear that anthem this season in the DTM, because René Rast is back to winning ways. Not that he was away for long.
Congratulations, everyone. And
the 2019 and 2017 champion holds aloft a magnificent trophy here at Spa. Oh, and drops it. Oh, René, that's the first mistake you've made this weekend. Oh, well, get the super glue out. The other drivers don't care. No sympathy. Straight in the face with the champagne, thanks to Nico Muller. Oh dear. Well, it was a magnificent trophy. We'll get a bit of gaffer tape. It'll be all right. I'm sure the team can fix that for you, Rene. Rene Rast then drops the trophy, but gets the points. Shrugs the shoulders. Terrific drive by him. What a fight we got.